we've all seen, some of the things that have happened here in the last year or so with the gun violence. And so when, I was able to witness a young man, 2 young men lose their life, I felt it was time to do something. And so, I got with some of my buddies here that I know would felt the same way that I did, and we decided that something needed to be done. And it started as simple as us just walking the community, walking the neighborhoods, talking to young men and women about what we can do, as influential people. And one of the things that they said was to have events. And so we decided that we would try to put together an event, and we reached out around the community, and thankfully, by the grace of God, we were able to get Walker Ford to commit to allowing us to use their beautiful facility, and it just kind of took off from there. And so just really excited about today, really happy that this event was able to take place. All intents and purposes, a successful event, and we hope this is the start of many other events here in our capital city that really just expose our youth to all the resources that we have here, all of the things that they can do aside from a life in the streets.
HBCU game day, and we're here with head coach Willie Simmons. Coach has been a proponent for controlling guns to reduce gun violence. He's had personal experiences with it. Coach, the crew at HBCU game day, you were one of the first people that came to our minds because of your stance on gun violence. When you saw the events of yesterday, what actually came to your mind?
Well, the same thing that comes to my mind every time. Which seems now like every day, which is, at what point when is enough? I mean, how many more lives do we have to lose? How many more families have to suffer? How many more people have to be afraid to go to regular establishments, and churches, movie theaters, schools, of all places? How many more times do we have to read this before the people who are in charge of making decisions for our safety do something? And it's just so sad that we're in such a political climate where maintaining a seat or whatever other personal reason, some of these elected politicians are in these spaces, won't do anything, and so it's extremely frustrating for everyone. I saw, Coach Kerr before their NBA Finals game last night give a heated interview only about that. Didn't even talk about the game. But that's the place that we as normal citizens are, right? We're tired of this, and I'm a praying guy, but I'm tired of giving condolences, right? And it's time for something to be done. I mean, there's got to be some type of common sense rule. And I don't want to get into the politics of everything, but there has to be something. We can't just do anything. We can't just do nothing, right? I mean, as a football coach, if I keep getting beat by the same play over and over again, they will fire me if I continue to just run whatever we're running against that play, knowing that it's not giving us success. And so again, the people that are sitting around doing nothing, I mean, do they not see what's happening? Do they not feel what's happening? And I hate to say, I've seen people say maybe it needs to happen to them, but it shouldn't have to. That's why you're an elected official. Your job is to represent the people. We are the people. Those families over in Texas elected people to look out for their best interests, for the safety of their children and their futures. And unfortunately, 19 families woke up today with the most unthinkable thing ever. To think that my child went off to elementary school, of all places, and they didn't come home because someone who should not have access to a gun has it and is able to go into a place and open fire on innocent, defenseless individuals of all people, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds.
And we continue to hear the same story over and over. Politicians will say, well, if we make gun laws, bad people don't always follow laws to get guns. But the fact came out that 77% of these mass murders that happen with legally obtained guns, and the gunman in the Texas situation actually obtained the gun legally. So that's not a valid argument anyway. The statistics don't point to that. Coach, just a week earlier, we had to deal with it. It's always even more in our hearts when it's children like the elementary school, but just regular families that we saw in Buffalo that was disheartening as well.
No, I mean, again, it's like I think I read something where this is the 288th mass shooting in the United States this year. I mean, like I said, just a week ago, we're all as a country reeling because someone, opened fire in a Walmart, I think it was, And so, again, I mean, here in the capital city, obviously, we've tried to do our best to address gun violence, here, and the effects that it's had on our community, particularly the south side of town where Florida A&M is, and many of the underserved communities, but it's a nationwide problem. We see it across the country, New York, Florida, now Texas. I don't know if there's a place in the United States that hasn't been affected by it, even all the way back, to Columbine. And so you're talking about, decades of senseless gun violence, like you said, of people who, have the right, people who feel that we should have a right to just carry a semi-automatic rifle, a gun that can fire multiple shots. And again, I'm not a gun owner. I'm probably in the minority that I'm not a gun owner. But if I was, my wife is. But if I was, I don't ever see the need to carry a gun that can shoot 10 plus rounds at one time. I don't know what I mean as a hunter, and I come from a family of hunters. I don't think I've ever seen someone open up 10 rounds hunting,
Right.
and so it just common sense is common sense.
Well,
right?
I had to interject with that, Coach. I have home security, but I talked to a few friends of mine in law enforcement, and they never recommended a semi-automatic assault rifle. There are sensible, what I call sensible, home protection. I'm 100% for people having home protection. I just don't see those weapons as home protection. And then just to bring it even closer, I was recently at an event where you talked about not wanting your players, some of them, to go home over the summer because of the increased violence. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, most of the guys that we recruit and that I coach are from, the inner city or underserved communities where a lot of the gun violence is taking place. And so, this past spring, during exit meetings, met with one of my players, and he talked about going home and going to pick his brother up, who was maybe involved in some things that he shouldn't have been involved in. And, his brother got shot at while he was there. So essentially they got shot at, and that's just one story. If I polled my team, I guarantee you well over half have been witness to some form of gun violence. We took a group over to the high school over in my hometown to talk about gun violence and choices, and each guy had a personal experience. One of my players lost his brother this year to gun violence. One of our players chronicled losing multiple friends, some of his best friends in life to gun violence. I lost my best friend in life to gun violence just a few blocks from this campus. My son was shot a couple of football fields away from this very office that we're sitting in, and out walking his dog. And so again, it's as much of an epidemic as anything else that we're facing, in my opinion. And everything else we're taking measures to try to get a grasp on, and except this. This seems to be the only issue, and I don't know what it is about gun violence. I know the Second Amendment is a hot topic, but I don't know what it is about this particular issue that's got so many people willing to just sit back on the sidelines and continue to watch senseless people die. I understand drug use. I understand even automobile accidents. I understand that there are things that happen in this country that affect us and take life. But there are not many things more disheartening than when you look up and see that 19 elementary school kids. I have kids in elementary school. Mm-hmm. And to think that Shiloh can go to a place that's supposed to be safe. There are not many places for us as parents safer than the school system. And to think that at any moment someone can walk in and open fire is unfathomable. I can't even. There aren't words for it. And to think again that people are just sitting around who can do something and make a difference. Do something. I'm not going to try to tell people how to do their job. Just like I don't want you to tell me what play to call on 3rd and 5. but do something, right? Come together, make a decision, do something, change, amend the law in some kind of way that makes it more difficult for people who, have shown a history of violence, or that show some type of mental, illness, or whatever the case may be, that it makes it much tougher to do to get a gun. I mean, it's one of the easiest things to do is to go out and get a gun, and I don't think it should be that way. Like I said, I'm not a politician. I'm not, I don't have an agenda other than the safety of my players and my family. But I just have to think that we can do something. And when I say we, I mean the people that we voted for to put in office. Please, please, please do something to change some laws that make it tougher to acquire these type of weapons where they're mass shootings. Like, this isn't you shooting one person. This is another mass shooting. Almost 300 mass shootings just this year. We're in the 5th month, and with almost 300 mass shootings, that means you've opened fire on a group of people, and it's. I'm sorry, Vaughn.
No, I understand. I think many of us share your exact same views. That it's just disheartening, and it almost makes you numb because it's happening just right after Buffalo. We're still trying to process Buffalo, and then Texas happens. That's a lot for a person to comprehend. How do you portray, as we close? How do you portray to your players ways to be safe and to be smart?
Well, you used to be able to say, watch where you go. Watch the places that you hang out. But am I supposed to tell them not to go to church? Right? Should I tell them not to go to the movie theater? Or should I tell them not to go to school? Because this is where these things are happening. And so for us, I'm struggling trying to find a consistent message. We talked to them about being covered. We have to pray for our young people, man. We have to pray for covering, for anointing, because again, the places that we grew up that we knew were safe havens are no longer safe havens. And so it would be easy to tell the guys not to go to the club, and stay out late on a Friday or Saturday night. But I don't know the last time I've seen a mass shooting at a nightclub. Right? I mean, there may be a shot fired here or there, or there obviously are altercations at those type of places. But again, I don't read as much about people going into nightclubs just opening up fire. You read about everyday life, broad daylight, schools, churches, movie theaters, grocery stores. I mean, places that people don't even think about whether they should carry a weapon or be protected. I mean, when you go to get groceries for your family, like, who should have to worry about getting shot in the grocery store? So, I mean, the message again that we just tell our guys is just try your best to do everything you can to be safe. But more than anything else, recognize the signs. Try your best to recognize the signs of someone who's showing some erratic behavior. Social media is a tool when used the right way. A lot of these individuals post things, and say things prior to, so that, if you see something out of place, like I tell our team all the time, if your brother, if you see that your teammate is acting a little bit different today, or, talking a little bit, what we call crazy, say something to someone, because again, we assume that everybody's okay. Right. This pandemic has really, really revealed a lot of mental health and wellness issues that we as a people face. And so I think that's a component that we really need to wrap our arms around. We've tried, a lot of people try to, deflect and say, oh, well, it's just mental illness, that's why they're doing these things, which is partly true. There is a mental illness component. But again, it goes back to the same point in the beginning. How are these people able to get access to legal weapons? Right? If these were illegal guns that were shooting up places, then that's another conversation. But most of these individuals have legal registered firearms that have shown some type of mental illness. And so it's a conversation that's way more important than any football matter that I can talk about. I wish there was something that I could say to appeal to Washington, to pass some federal gun laws. But here in the capital city, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, which is getting out in the community, talking to the middle and high schoolers, walking through the neighborhoods, trying to encourage our young people to stay active, to do things outside of hanging out and being idle, because the idle mind is the devil's playground. So we can keep them in activities, and we can keep them channeled in and focus on something positive. Then maybe we can prevent that one individual who maybe felt like there's no future for them. Maybe we can prevent that person from doing something that's going to not only impact their lives, but the lives of countless families. And that's what we're seeing far too often.
Well, Coach, we certainly appreciate you. HBCU Game Day, just out and about in the community, not a lot about sports, but more about life. And we want to thank Coach Simmons for chiming in with us today on a subject that's very important. It does affect HBCUs. We saw a lot of threats at HBCUs early on in the years, and the way that was handled. So we hope that there can be some solution. And for HBCU Game Day, I'm Vaughn Wilson for Coach Simmons, and we'll talk to you later.